Welcome to the NBA Triple Double Show powered by SportsMemo. I am your host for today, Ronald Cabang, also known as UCapper on SportsMemo.com and on Twitter at U_Capper. You can see the tag down here somewhere. Shout out to everyone who's been catching our shows so far. It's already been a pretty profitable season so far for us on the Triple Double Show here. But before we get into today's three games, let's talk about some deals that we got going on today. It is Monday, October 24th, so that means it's $9 Monday on sportsmemo.com. Every Monday until midnight, all daily packages are $9 each, including all best bets, which are normally priced around $35 to $40. This happens every Monday, so make sure you check out the $9 Mondays over at sportsmemo.com. We also have one more promo code. I have to mention the $50 off 30-day NBA pass from Matt or myself or any other Sports Memo capper. Use promo code NBA30 for that deal. Once again, that's $50 off a 30-day NBA pass from any Sports Memo handicapper on the site there. And the promo code again, NBA30. So head over to sportsmemo.com after the show and snatch up some of those deals that we got going on. Every day we have something going on. Tomorrow's Tuesday, $2 Tuesdays going to be up. There's always some good stuff going on. So deals on deals on deals over at sportsmemo.com. Now let's get Matt up in here so we can talk some games. Matt, man, how was your birthday weekend? I know you probably had a good time.
Hey, it was a good birthday weekend. I appreciate it. We had some UFC 280, some basketball, we had some college football, and then, of course, the Sunday slate. And honestly, all in all, I went about 500 for the entire weekend. Was hoping for a bigger weekend, if I'm being honest, and had a couple spread picks. Like I saw you got Miami at -2.5. I sadly got them at 3. That sucked. That 16-point lead with like 3-4 minutes left. Ended up in a push. I had another NBA push, but I've been hitting the props pretty good yesterday. I only had one NBA play up yesterday. I had Damian Lillard over 24.5 points. That absolutely smashed. He went off for 41, and he's just one of those guys who loves playing the Lakers, but going to have some plays up tonight and ready to get hot.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I did pretty well this weekend. Shout out to Napalm out here. 2-0 with my picks. Oh man, I'm
Nice.
glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear it. But yeah, had a pretty good weekend overall. I actually didn't touch the NFL. But I'm wearing the Seahawks because I got to represent number one in the division now.
Played
But
good.
NBA has been really good so far, up 20 plus units for my clients to start the season. So I'm seeing the board well. Hopefully, we continue to cash on the show as well because I looked back on Friday's show and on Wednesday's show. We've been pretty much killing it. So let's keep going. First game up, Celtics Bulls. I mean, both of these teams are playing their third game in 4 nights. Bulls got the Pacers on deck in a couple of days. Celtics, they got somewhat of a extended rest after tonight's game. I think that they don't play until Friday.
Yeah.
So I'm expecting them to be fully focused on this Bull team here and not necessarily looking ahead to the Cavs. Matt, what are your thoughts on this one here?
For me, when looking at this game right now, it's tough to go away from the Boston Celtics. I think the Boston Celtics are playing very good basketball, this early in the season. And I personally thought, Robert Williams being absent was going to be a huge miss for the Boston Celtics. And then, you got Daniel Tice going out as well. But honestly, they've been doing pretty solid defensively. They do such a good job at rotating, and when they choose to double, they do such a good job at coming over right when that player is looking to turn and make that shot or turn to look for a pass or anything along those lines. I look back at that Joel Embiid matchup, and at first I was like, okay, maybe this is just one game. But Boston has been playing very good defensively, at home, on the road. And then now that they come up and are facing the Chicago Bulls team, I don't know if this, Zach LaVine just got plugged back into the lineup. I think this Bulls team may need a game or two with all three of them back, with LaVine, DeRozan, and Vucevic, to kind of get their rotations down, get a little synergy going. And, this Boston team seems to be clicking on all cylinders right now. So for me, I like the Boston team because they're also better defensively. I think Brown and Tatum are doing a very good job wing defending, coming over in double teams. And then they got those players just coming off those bench, guys like Malcolm Brogdon coming off, a key contributor, key assist maker. So I think this Boston Celtics team could cover this spread tonight.
Yeah, it's funny that you say a lot of those notes are actually what I put down as well. It's like you stole from my note sheet here. I mean, Celtics, they're shooting lights out to start the season. Continuity is there on their side as well. And you mentioned Brogdon; he's been a perfect fit into that rotation. It's almost seamless into how he has come into that rotation. Third game in 4 nights, something I mentioned earlier for the Bulls, but I mean for the Celtics here. But Horford, he didn't play the last game against the Magic, so he's going to be rested. He should have enough energy to stay with Vucevic from the Bulls here. The Bulls, they started off the season with a nice win over the Heat, then they took a loss to the Wizards, then got wrecked by the Cavs. That was sort of a tough spot for them because they were on the second game of back-to-back road to home games. But something that you mentioned in your breakdown, the biggest knock on the Bulls right now is their chemistry, and there's just a lot of mouths to feed in that starting five, and that's a problem. I think for me, what I could see with that rotation, from the first game to the second and third game, Caruso in the starting lineup fit well because you have, I mean, I feel like you got guys who are defensive minded on the bench and then offensive minded in the starting five. So you got to create that balance. Something that I talked about on Friday's show is balance within the rotation. In that starting five right there, there's just so many mouths to feed with Vucevic already there, DeRozan and Levine. Patrick Williams is also some sort of offensive player, and so is Ao. So putting guys like Caruso or maybe even Green in that starting lineup to kind of balance that out, bring Ao and Patrick Williams off the bench as a 1-2 punch. I think that's going to help the Bulls team in the long run. But until they create that balance, until they make changes into that lineup, I don't think anything is going to change anytime soon for the Bulls. And like you mentioned, the Celtics, they're playing well right now. The chemistry is there. It's like you don't want to step in front of a team that you can see is sort of on a mission right now. So the only way that I could look on this game as well is just towards the Celtics. So I think we're aligned in that one pretty well. A lot of, like I said, we didn't talk before the show, but a lot of the notes that we're mentioning are pretty similar. So I like that we agree there. Hopefully we come out with the W with the Celtics there. I know the line opened up at -4.5 yesterday. We're seeing some 5.5s and sixes now, but I still like it at this number. Um, any last notes on that one, or you want to move on to the next one?
No, I definitely agree with you there. When looking at the Boston Celtics, again, it's just the team that's the hottest right now. It's the team that's synergizing the most. Then you got, in all honesty, yes, do I trust DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine to go out and get buckets? Yeah, of course. But do I trust Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown a little bit more or a lot more? Yeah,
Yeah.
I do. So I'm going to side with the Boston Celtics with that one.
Yeah, and on that note too, I like the over as well. I know you mentioned the defense on the Celtics side, but they look like to be pushing the pace a little bit more. So yeah, I like the over there. Definitely like the Celtics. Next game up, Nets and Grizzlies. This is a tough matchup for me. Nets are 1-1 so far in the season. Even after that win over the Raptors, I still feel like there's a little bit of a chemistry problem there with that starting lineup. With the Grizzlies coming off of that huge blowout loss, where are you looking at this one in this game, Matt?
Yeah, and I'm going to be honest. When I first looked at this line, it was Brooklyn +2, and I will be honest. I took Brooklyn +2. I did take that play, and I took it for one reason, being like this line kind of stinks to me. With the Grizzlies absolutely getting smoked against the Mavericks, you would think they would come home and be a favorite, a decent favorite against a Brooklyn Nets team. So again, some of this might come down to Dylan Brooks potentially missing. He's questionable right now. That's still up in the air. But when looking at these two lineups, I think a lot of people are going back to the Memphis Grizzlies of last year. And yes, this team will be back, but it's not here right now. Jaren Jackson Jr. is a great power forward who can stretch the court. He can make threes, very streaky shooter, good rebounder, good blocker. He is not on the court. Dylan Brooks potentially not going to be on the court as well. And then they have some key bench guys missing here too. When looking at the Brooklyn Nets, yes, they're still going to be without Seth Curry and TJ Warren, but they are getting one of their outside shooters back in Joe Harris. And one thing that I find actually very interesting in this matchup is where they're going to play Ben Simmons and who they're going to match Ben Simmons up with, because I think it's going to be Ja Morant. And if, in fact, Dylan Brooks does not play in this game, then the top two options 100% are going to be Ja Morant and Desmond Bane. And I honestly believe if Ben Simmons does guard Ja Morant, that he can limit him or make his night a little bit more troublesome than typical. I don't think we're going to have one of those huge explosion nights from Ja Morant, like a 40-plus point game or anything along those lines. And when you have most of your scoring options out, sometimes that's what you need. You need a huge Ja Morant game. You need a huge Desmond Bane game. So if, in fact, Dillon Brooks is out, I actually like the combo of Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving over the combo of Ja Morant and Desmond Bane, even though it's on the road. In addition to that, I do, again, going back to this line, it stinks a little bit to me, and it's making me fade the Grizzlies and go to the Nets here because, again, I think Kevin Durant is just one of those players who obviously he can go out and get 40. And I think when you're comparing him to Ja Morant tonight, I think Kevin Durant will have the easier matchup in terms of offensive output. So because of that, I actually like Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving to put them over the edge and cover this spread. I mean, I took it at +2, but I actually like the Nets to get this one outright.
All right. So this is one where we're going to be on opposite sides again, Matt. To me, I feel like there's still that, like I mentioned earlier, that chemistry issue here with the Nets, and also the coaching advantage is on the Grizzlies as well. Coming off of that blowout loss to the Mavs, I think it was a bad spot for the Grizzlies. They were playing the second game of back-to-back road games. The Mavs were in a get-back spot after losing to the Suns after leading by 22 points. So they had a lot of motivation coming into that game. And the Grizzlies, they were feeling themselves. I mean, Ja just had an incredible game the night before. Obviously, there would have been a letdown spot here. So I think that game might have been, I wouldn't say like an outlier, but at the same time, I think it's a bigger margin than it should have been. Since the 2019 season, so looking at trends on this, just to back the Grizzlies here, since the 2019 season, since Ja joined the team, Grizzlies are 9-3 straight up and against the spread following a loss by 20 points or more. So they typically bounce back in these spots. And they lost by more than 30 points, 2-0 straight up and 2-0 against the spread. I would only look towards the Grizzlies in this one. Ja's playing at an MVP level right now. They got caught in a bad spot against the Mavs and it looked really bad. So I think they bounced back here. Hopefully get this one, get the win in this one. I think, to me, you mentioned a good point about Ben Simmons on Ja Morant. The problem with me on that is it's shown, Ben Simmons has shown that he's been sort of getting into foul trouble. He's a very physical defender. And I don't know if they're not rewarding that type of defense at this point so far in the season. So there might be, Ja's a shifty point guard. He's able to get into spaces where he normally should. I mean, not regular players can get into. And being that type of shifty player can get guys into foul trouble who play physical and not lateral. So that's the way that I could look at it is really towards the Grizzlies in this one. Any last comments on that game before we get to our last one?
No, yeah, I mean, I completely agree with kind of what you said in regards to it. I looked up the past games as well, and when I saw the Memphis record against the Nets, I was not too happy to see that. My biggest thing was definitely coming down to Dillon Brooks and maybe not having that third option, or if you do, it's just because he's limited. So, yeah, and to your point, I'm very interested to see this matchup with Ben Simmons and Ja Morant because, again, if he does get in foul trouble early, then that's going to open everything up for the Grizzlies. So,
yeah. The one thing, too, that I'm on a wait and see with the Nets here because you mentioned Joe Harris, and we talked about it on Friday's show. He's able to kind of spread the court there and keep and open up space for guys like KD and Kyrie who had that really good mid-range game. And look what happened. Kyrie went off. You know what I mean? So I think that's one thing to mention, too, is to be able to watch some of these teams who have to make some adjustments. Ben Simmons coming into a roster, that's a huge adjustment. So I think that for me, that's another reason why I'm looking towards the Memphis team is just I think the Nets team overall is going to be good. The longer the season goes, they just need time to gel. So for me, it would just be continuity and coaching. I think there's a huge coaching advantage for the Memphis team there.
No doubt.
But yeah, that one, that's not going to make my card, but definitely, a good game to watch just as far as, how these teams are going to move forward. Next up, we got the Nuggets and Blazers. I believe this is the last game of the night here. This is another one of those rest advantage spots. Blazers are playing third game in 4 nights, playing second game of back-to-back road to home splits, and those are games that I like to kind of fade those teams on. What are your thoughts on those types of rest advantage spots? And where are you looking as far as a betting aspect in this game?
Yeah. Did the Nuggets play last night?
Nuggets did not play last night.
Oh, so they have okay. For some reason, I thought they played the Thunder last night. That must have been Saturday. I'm guessing.
Yeah. Let me
Okay.
double check. I'm pretty sure they didn't play last night, but yeah. Go ahead. You can break it down. I don't think
Okay.
they played last night.
Okay, yeah. So for me with this one, yeah, if they do have a rest advantage, that would definitely take me more towards the Nuggets, I will say. But Damian Lillard is one of those guys where if he has a couple hot nights in a row, he is a very, very, very streaky shooter, and he tends to keep it going. So he put up 41 points last game against the LA Lakers. That was the only play I had out yesterday at 24 and a half points. But Damian Lillard right now, earlier in the season, I think you are getting some player point props that are a little bit lower than typical, because of his injury last year. And again, if his number's around 24 and a half, 26 and a half, something along those lines, I would take it once again. But when looking at this Portland Trailblazers team, I think a lot of people are sleeping on them early in the season. But in reality, they do have a pretty good starting lineup, starting with Damian Lillard. Then going to Anfernee Simons, he's a very young, streaky shooter. He's a good three-point shooter. He's a pretty good ball handler. Then you have someone like Josh Hart, another guy who's a good three-point shooter. He's a good rebounder as a small forward. And then you have Jeremy Grant, who's an offensive power forward, and Yusuf Nurkic, who's a pretty solid center. He's good at rebounding. He's good around the rim. A decent defender. Doesn't always move his feet that well. But again, a pretty good starting lineup. And so far in the season, they've been playing teams really tough. And then when you go over on the Denver Nuggets, the key to that team is always going to be Nikola Jokic. What can Jokic do? How does he get this offense going? And, now that Jamal Murray is reinserted into that lineup, they'll slowly start bringing his minutes up. He needs to get a better feel. And with each game, he's going to be doing that. And someone else who's been playing very, very good is Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. This is some of the best basketball that I've seen him play, not just to start a season, but just basketball in general over the past couple of years. He's also a solid defender. I could see him maybe taking the guard of Damian Lillard. So for me, I do like both rosters, but I would definitely edge to the Denver Nuggets, especially if they do have that rest advantage. If a team is on a back-to-back and they're getting less than 5 points in a game, I'm generally going to go the other way, especially with a team like Denver who has more offensive output than the Portland Trailblazers, I would say. They still, again, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., Jokic, Aaron Gordon. So a very good, solid starting lineup. And then again, you have Bones Highland coming off the bench. I think that's the best bench player in either matchup. I think he can go and get some points. He can make some things happen in terms of assists. So for me, I would go with the Denver Nuggets as well with that rest advantage.
Yeah, I like that play a lot. Actually, I mean, I'm with you on that one. I can only look towards the Nuggets here. Blazers obviously coming from behind yesterday against the Lakers, who had a 8-point lead with a couple of minutes left in that game. Blazers went on an 11-2 run to close out the game and get the win. Just terrible decisions overall by the Lakers team down the stretch, and the Blazers on the other hand knew exactly what they wanted to do. They wanted to get it to Dame, and he's been looking pretty good this season. He's kind of looking like his old self, from Blazers a couple years ago. The squad is definitely looks a lot better than I originally thought. You mentioned their starting lineup and how I think Jeremy Grant low-key was a huge addition to this team. Josh Hart coming back for another season, he brings that kind of grit and defensive mindset. And like you mentioned earlier too, like that rebounding from the small forward position is pretty key, because it gets the rest of the guys, Simons and Lillard and Jeremy Grant down the floor quicker. That helps that offense a lot. Shooting, to me, the Nuggets, I think they're the better shooting team, the big reason why is because of Jokic and everyone that they put around him. Jokic is one of the best passing big men we've ever seen in the league, and the 3-point shooters that they put around him. And that's why Caldwell Pope is probably playing a lot better than you would expect, is because he's actually wide open for a majority of his threes. So that's definitely going to help out when you have someone like Jokic and has that vision and is able to see over everybody on the court. So to me, I think one of the biggest knocks on the Nuggets, though, is that they're dead last in turnovers right now. So they got to take care of the ball. That's the only to me that's the only knock against them in this lineup, in this matchup, with the rest advantage and as well as like just the offense flowing the way that it has been. I can also only look towards the Nuggets here. I think at some point Portland is, I wouldn't say overperforming, but at the same time they're getting into a spot where the schedule doesn't is not helping them. They're going to be playing their fourth and sixth nights as well in a couple of days, so the schedule is not on their side in the next two games. So I can only look to fade them today and in two games in the next two games. So that's the only way that I could look towards the Nuggets on that one. Any closing comments on that game?
No, I'm 100% with you there. I think this is actually a good correction spot potentially for the Portland Trailblazers. We're starting to get like 3 or 4 games in the season, so those teams who probably start a little too hot might even out here the next couple games, and I think these are those spots where you take advantage of it.
Yeah, it's like the Jazz, right? The Jazz 3-0 Jazz. There you go.
That's a segue into the next one.
Yeah. But all right, so that's 3 games on the that we broke down today. Those were 3 key games too. It's not like we're looking at teams that are towards the bottom of the league. These are games that we also want to watch, and it's also fun, when you have a bet on a game like that because it makes it more exciting. But I don't know. Through the first week, man, I like how the. All right, so this is one thing that I see on Twitter a lot is percentages, split percentages, money percentages, and ticket percentages.
Yeah.
I just want to say that I won maybe 3 or 4 bets this week where the line went the other way and it was on the public side. So I just want to continue saying, and I want to push this throughout the season too, is stop looking at that stuff and just trust your capping, man. That's just what I want to add to that. What are your thoughts on that, man? I just feel like it's overblown. It's like if it's as easy as fading the public and reverse line movement and stuff like that, we wouldn't be here. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, look at this weekend. I mean, it's not NBA, but it's NFL. But almost all the favorites, where the public betting favorites in terms of NFL won this week. So it definitely wasn't a week for Vegas. Last week or this weekend, one of my favorite plays was the Orlando Magic plus 8.5 at home against the Boston Celtics. That was one in my head I kind of thought about. I'm like, okay, I'm sure the public will be pretty heavy on Boston, but I go with what I see. I go with what I'm going to like. In that Boston Celtics game against the Magic, okay, the Magic have Wendell Carter Jr., they have Mo Bamba, they have Paulo Banchero. They should be able to rebound the basketball successfully and put back offensive boards, get second chance points. To me, that's why I like the Magic. So I really don't dive into that much. I sit there and I break down their lineups and who's, okay, Boston Celtics are playing very good basketball right now, but the Magic aren't playing that bad either. They're a tough matchup for almost any team right now just because of their height and length. And then when Jonathan Isaac comes back, it's going to be even more difficult defensively against the Orlando Magic. So I saw 8.5 with a team like that big, second chance points, rebounds. It was more about the actual basketball statistics than the public or odds and stuff or whatever.
Yeah. And it's not even just the surface level stats either. Like you just mentioned, the breakdown of every single player and matchup, with the length of Magic. I was on that game too as well, and it also helped that Horford was not there either. But
yeah, exactly.
But that was good. Yeah, no, I just wanted to mention that it's just something that I see on Twitter a lot, and people got to stop using that as a capping process. But with that said, it's on to the best bets. I'll just go first here because mine is really quick and concise. Just really quick. It's really something that we talked about earlier on this Boston Celtics team. They just look like they're on a mission. They're really playing, great ball right now. They have a lot of good chemistry, and Brogdon fitting in seamlessly like that is something that's a huge plus for this team to start off the season. I do like the Bulls squad as a whole. They're a deep squad. I just don't think they're gelling at this moment, and they need to fix some of that rotation, and eventually they'll figure it out. But just for now, I'm going to take the better team that's playing better ball, and that's going to be the Boston Celtics here. I did give this out to my SportsMemo clients at minus 4.5 last night. I do see it at minus 5.5 and some 6s in some spots. I still like it. Celtics should be the way to go. Matt, what's your best bet and what you got going on the premium side?
Yeah, so on the premium side right now, I have one spread play up. And one thing I do want to say about my premium side is, again, if you're newer to the show, I have a DFS background. I was a pro DFS player. So my win-loss in NBA is a little bit different because I'll go out and I'll play a plus 600 triple-double for, a quarter of a unit or something along those lines, which I did this past weekend with Luka. And Luka would have hit that triple-double if the game was an absolute blowout. So with spread bets, I've actually been pretty successful. I mean, I'm 3-2 so far with 2 other pushes, and this is one that I really, really do enjoy. I'm going to add this one to the card, and I do have a couple player props that I'm looking at early on. Again, the DFS background and all that, so I love playing some player props, good spots, bounce backs, things of that nature. And one spot that I think is a good bounce back, and I think it's a correction spot, is actually the Houston Rockets +2 against the Utah Jazz. All right. And this is just one of those games where when you look at the Houston Rockets, or even go back to last year, their biggest weakness was at the 4 and 5 position and rebounding the basketball. Now that they're playing the Utah Jazz really aren't an issue with that because they're starting Kelly Olynyk, and then they have Jared Vanderbilt at the 4, who is a solid rebounder. I do like what Jared Vanderbilt brings to the team. You have Lauri Markkanen running the small forward, another decent player there. But all in all, they're not going to be overwhelmed with size or anything along those lines. With the Houston Rockets, though, the guy that I am looking to in this matchup is Jalen Green. I expect Jalen Green to take a huge step forward this season, and this is a matchup that I bet you he's really licking his chops because he loves to get out and run. He loves smaller teams who can't protect the rim because he can elevate like anyone in the league. He can throw it down. He's great at finishing. He's got a good mid-range game. So Jalen Green is that guy I'm looking to tonight with the point prop. I'm going to see what that number's at. I might add that one to my card. And then Kevin Porter Jr. as well. Being matched up against someone like Jordan Clarkson. Jordan Clarkson is a good offensive NBA player. He's not the best defensively. He gives up some size to Kevin Porter Jr. as well, who now and then does like to back players down and find people out of the post in that way. So again, I'm starting to really like what this Houston Rockets team could potentially do against this Utah Jazz team. Getting +2 points at home against a Jazz team who I think everyone is a little surprised in regards to them being 3-0. Again, they're going on the road in Houston. I think the Jazz are going to be a huge public favorite here as well. But to me, this is just a correction spot. I think this is just a team where Houston is 0-3. They need this win. They're at home. Utah probably relaxing a little bit. They're maybe like, okay, they're probably not even expecting to be 3-0. So for me, I really like the Rockets here. I'm going to take the +2, but you could also go money line here at +110. I like the Rockets to win this one outright personally.
I love that play a lot. I think the Rockets can get the win there too. It's just a bad travel spot, a bad schedule spot as well for the Jazz. There's, like you said, there's going to be some correction there. No one was really expecting them to start the season 3-0. They did it, but now it's time to get back to where they need to be. They forget. One thing that I think about this Utah team though is I looked up their head coach because I looked up their coach Hardy, never heard of him, but he grew up in the pop coaching tree, so he has really obviously he's gonna have a really high IQ. I mean, I think anyone that grows into that from pop's tree, then they're always gonna be good. I mean, look at Udoka who came to Boston, they made a change. So I think their mindset is in the right direction. It's just overall, I think they're just really overperforming right now. I mean, I don't expect Markkanen to continue being the player that he's been the rest of the season. So I think at some point they're going to correct it. But yeah, man, I love that play a lot.
No, yeah. One thing I was going to say too is with Jabari Smith. Jabari Smith is running that 4 now. He's a bigger guy. He can rebound fairly well. He's going to be going against Jared Vanderbilt, where he'll have a size advantage. Alperen Sengun, when he struggles, it's usually a size advantage or something along those lines. Now he's going to be against Kelly Olynyk. So I could see him having a pretty solid game here. I think I'd give him that edge over Kelly Olynyk as well. So I think this is just a good overall matchup for this Houston Rockets team to get right.
Yeah, they definitely have a good. This definitely matches up well for Houston as far as player versus player. I think at some point they should put Sengun in that starting lineup. I think he's a good addition to that team, that starting 5. Yeah.
I completely agree. And then also you think about that matchup between Jalen Green and Colin Sexton. I give a huge advantage to Jalen Green. Like if you guys
Yeah,
don't know about
Sexton.
Jalen, what's that?
Sexton and Conley, they both look like. I mean, well, I know. So Conley's starting, right, and he's looked like he's lost a step,
For
pretty
sure.
like drastically. And Sexton, obviously, I mean, he looked like a really great defender in Cleveland,
Mhm.
but now that he doesn't have the trees down low to
Yeah,
behind him, he's looking like he's getting he's looking like he's not as great a defender that we all thought he was. So
100%.
I like that matchup as well.
Yeah, it'll be him or Clarkson out of that two guard going against Green, and I honestly think Green goes off tonight. I wouldn't be surprised if you drop 30.
Yeah, I like it. I like that play a lot. All right, with that said, man, I think we had a great show overall. Nice best bets, nice outlook on the three games that we broke down. Any last words before we cut out?
No, man, $9 Monday. Over at Sports Memo, definitely going to have some play. I already got one NBA play up. I have an NFL play up. I'm going to add at least one or two more NBA. I do like this card. I think there's some good spots on this card. And then I might add one more NFL as well. So definitely check that out.
Yeah, I have a heavy day in NBA. I feel I have four up. I have four client plays up right now, and I'm looking at three more that I really want to add to the card. We'll see how it goes though. But
Let's
like
go.
you said, $9 Monday. All picks and packages on the site right now, $9. Even the best bets. And then that $50 off 30-day NBA package for any of us over at sportsmemo.com. Promo code NBA30. With that said, end of the show.
Can I
Good.
bring
Oh, go
something
ahead.
real quick? Yes, they have the combo package for me and you, right?
Do they? I'm not 100% sure.
That might be the UFC show, honestly. But
Okay.
one last point that I wanted to make too is for me and Ron. I'm not sure how you attack your plays, but again, I'm very DFS oriented, so I highly recommend subscribing to us as
Yeah.
well, so you get that alert when a play comes out. Because again, the way that I look at things, if a player drops from that lineup, minutes have to go somewhere, shots, usage percentage, rebounds. So I might immediately like to pivot and grab another player's point prop, rebound prop, assist prop, and some of those switches are split seconds. You have 5 minutes, 10 minutes to get those in. So that's why I highly recommend subscribing to us as well, because me and Ron are always watching that action. And if anything changes, we're on it.
Mhm.
We want you to be too.
Yeah, you gotta take advantage of when we put these plays out because we're seeing the line before it starts to move. There's a couple plays that I put out last night that have already moved in the other direction or in the direction. So losing value on that is tough. And you eventually don't want to give out plays where the line has moved multiple points. But yeah, that's a good way to point out the NBA packages might be the best way to go instead of the daily plays.
And it's an everyday battle. Every
Yeah.
slate is a little bit different. One slate might have a ton of opportunity, and the next one might have very little. Because really, we're trying to pinpoint these spots where you can make the most money, and a lot of
Mhm.
it does come down to opportunity.
Yep, makes a lot of sense. With that said, this is the end of the show. Good luck to everyone with all their action today. Till next time, Wednesday, same time, 10 o'clock. We'll see you there. Peace.
Peace out.